Before I get going with this video, take a listen to this.
So someone has just said something there,
Yep.
and it is accurate. Words don't mean much, and we appreciate that, which is why I'm saying to you, wait until the end of June. And I don't expect you to believe me or take what I'm saying as a given. But at the end of June, we will deliver our first update to you, when we will tell you what is going on. So I can only say just watch and see by our actions. But you are absolutely correct. That is something we need to earn.
Last week, Frontier stated that they would be more open with their communications, and yesterday's live stream was the first look at what this might mean. In Frontier's official live stream, as well as in an interview with Lave Radio, Elite Community Manager Arthur told me was extremely to the point and didn't mess around with any PR speak or any spin. To be honest, this is extremely refreshing and finally lifts Frontier's communication approach out of the 1990s and into the 21st century. This doesn't mean that everything that was said was perfect, and on more than one occasion what they said was actually demonstrably wrong. The important part, though, at least for me as I see it, is the change in tone. Direct answers are better than vague answers, and even if the answers aren't what we really want to hear. So it's good to see that Frontier are finally willing to acknowledge and treat player base like grown-ups. However, I'd also point out that this isn't the first time that Frontier have promised improved communications. Previously, they failed to deliver on those promises. This time, though, they've made a very good start. So, what was said on the live stream? I'm going to go into a bunch of different things here and give my take on them. The first thing on the list is probably the point that is going to get the strongest reaction from players. This was about ship interiors. Now, Frontier have said previously that ship interiors are not on the plans for Odyssey at release. A somewhat statement that can be interpreted in multiple ways. Now, the question came up again in the live stream, and to this, Frontier said very clearly, ship interiors are not on the roadmap. Basically, they're not coming to Elite. He did suggest, though, that never to say never, and hinted maybe one day, if there's enough demand, that it may actually happen. But for now, definitely don't go expecting to see them any time in the next couple of years. And here you can hear the words directly from Arthur himself.
I don't know. Someone's asked a question about ship interiors. There are no plans for ship interiors. I said this in way back when, I think, just after I joined. There are no plans for ship interiors. As I said before, I don't believe in giving no answer. It's worse than giving an answer I think people don't want to hear. But there are no plans for ship interiors.
As you can tell then, no room for misinterpretation. He did go into a little bit more detail in his answer to Lave Radio, and for that you can find a link in the video description below. Now, I'm one of those players that 100% wanted to see ship interiors, so this is disappointing news to me. I understand that some people don't want them, and not wanting them is totally fine. There's also a completely different group of people out there who just cannot envision the type of gameplay ship interiors could bring. Well, I'll make a video on that soon to help inspire the imagination a bit in that regards. Overall then, disappointing to hear that there's no plans for ship interiors, but you know what? I think it's way better to have Frontier say no, it's not happening, rather than just to string us along with vague statements that can be interpreted in multiple ways. That said, whilst everything Frontier said in the live stream and the interview was very direct along these type of lines, I'd argue that not everything was entirely accurate. A case in point is the claim that Odyssey Alpha went very well and was a success. So this is something that I completely disagree with. The Alpha was riddled with broken planets, poor performance issues, and hundreds if not thousands of bugs. All of this was reported, and whilst I'm sure many bugs did get fixed, I did cover some of the larger issues in my previous videos during the Alpha at the time. So not only from me, but also with the many other dozens of videos, hundreds of videos on YouTube, there's documented proof of all of these issues. However, there were two lines of excuses and reasoning for the Alpha for all the issues during the time. Firstly, it was from people stating, it's an Alpha, put up with it, what do you expect? Secondly, from Frontier stating they had an internal build of Odyssey that had more content and less of the problems. Now, I fully believe that Frontier were being honest about this, that they hadn't switched on all the planetary tech for Alpha, for example, and that these would be switched on in the final version. And I'm sure there's other situations the same. So yes, entirely believe that Frontier did have a more complete build, shall we say, internally, but that obviously wasn't tested with the wider audience, and hence here we are. Ultimately then, whilst Frontier say the Alpha Odyssey, or the Odyssey Alpha rather, was a success, I'm sure that just means in terms of it focusing on the niche things that Frontier themselves wanted to focus on. Further, Frontier did say that what happened with Odyssey, the way it broke upon release, was entirely unexpected. However, I do find that myself a little difficult to swallow, as many people, myself included, predicted exactly what was going to happen. I'm sure there were some unexpected problems for Frontier, but likewise we knew way ahead of time that optimization was going to be a major problem. Anyway, not to dwell on that subject too much, let's move on. The recent roadmap, released Friday was it? It highlighted what Frontier will be fixing in June. What happens after June is a mystery. However, as you heard Arthur say at the start of this video, Frontier will give an update at the end of the month. This does lead nicely onto the subject of console development, specifically because console development was mentioned in that roadmap post. Whilst Frontier are claiming that console development will directly benefit the PC version of Odyssey, there's always concern over what this might mean. Could it mean downgraded PC graphics? Well, this was addressed on Lave Radio. Let's have a quick listen.
So my honest answer is I don't know if I don't have the answer to it, so I don't know the answer. I know that we have to make Elite Dangerous Odyssey work on Xbox One and PS4s because that's, I think, I'm not sure if it's a legal requirement. I don't want to say it's a legal thing, but it's DLC for the game that's already on their system. Do I think it's going to look as good as it runs on a high-end PC? No, I don't. That's me being 100% honest, because I just don't think the Xbox One or the PS4 has that tech. That's me being 100% honest, but I'm not a dev, and I don't know what magic they're gonna pull into it, because we've got to reach that first milestone, which is why I wanted to push so hard for these monthly updates with dev on how development's going, not just on PC Odyssey but also console. But I don't know. We certainly do not want to compromise. If we don't have to, they won't. But I'm just being, I'm sure the same way I'm thinking everybody else is thinking, that, if they can make it work on an Xbox One, fantastic. That means great news for everybody. But I don't think they're going to want to compromise sort of the graphical fidelity, no.
So not quite answering the question on whether the PC might be downgraded to accommodate all of these optimizations and performance improvements, but it does give some insight on what people should expect from the console version of Odyssey. It's hardly surprising, to be honest, and do keep in mind we're talking about the Xbox One here and the PlayStation 4. Very few console games on that generation of consoles can run equivalent to a PC game on high settings. I don't think many people, reasonably at least, expect that to happen. Another subject often touched on is why the new Odyssey suits or tools were not provided to Deep Space Explorers. Shan from Lave Radio pushed for an answer on this question. Now let's face it, all three suits are super cheap at just 150,000 credits. Even on a new account with no game experience, they take little to no time to earn. The fact that these are not given to all players by default means that those who are on 20,000 light years or more journeys away from home, basically they're away from the nearest store and cannot get these suits. The short answer to this then is that this was a game design decision. Whilst Frontier could easily have given the suits to everyone by default, they decided not to do so. However, they fully understand that there's many players out in deep space that have been out there for years and they don't really want to return just to pick up a suit. So Frontier are considering some other ways of assisting the players in deep space. Finally, there's two other issues I wanted to mention. The first is the game being too dark. Most people agreed that the game is indeed too dark. We've seen forum posts and Reddit posts, YouTube videos, comments, and just about everything. However, there were a few people that said they felt it was fine. Here then is Frontier's position on that.
The game's too dark, so that is being looked at as a priority, and we're hoping that we'll have that remedied by the next couple of weeks. That's the plan at the moment, but as I said, I'm going to be honest with you, and I will take you with the journey that I'm on. If we find out it doesn't work and we have to go back to the drawing board, I will tell you.
So it's good to know that this one is going to be fixed. Second are the broken planets. I've highlighted in one video that there are some great planets out there to be found. Indeed, if you watch footage from YouTubers like the Burr Pit, you will see absolutely gorgeous footage, so these planets are certainly out there. However, also as previously highlighted, many planets are broken. Here's Frontier's take on that.
Someone's asked, is the parent tech works as intended? So if you're asking, is it working as intended? No, and there's multiple levels for that. Okay, and I don't want to go in and overstep my mark with dev. I think we've cleared this up. There's some issues around graphical issues that are compounding other issues. So there's a huge spear around unintentional puns today, Zach. It's like bingo. There's
I didn't even clock that one.
Stuff at work here with Planetary Deck. It's not just about a button you press. And also, I want players to understand that you're seeing things that shouldn't be displayed the way they should be displayed. There are clearly graphical errors that are being remedied and fixed every single update. So we want to get to update 5 and see how that works, and then we'll take a look at the bigger picture. I will say this as well, and I'm just talking as a player here, not from FDev or from exec level. This is me as a player. I will stress this. People ask me stuff like, will we ever see Pramesh 2C again or planets like it? The answer is they are very well in the game. You just haven't found them. A lot of players at the moment have gone to planets that are existing or seen that they have changed, but they've not broadened their scope and gone further afield. I've seen pictures of players in canyons. I've seen pictures of players with sort of speed bowls and dune buggies and stuff like that. They are out there, but it's something we're not just going to dismiss out of hand. But be under no illusions that if you're asking us to press a button, or you want FDev us to press a button and rebake every single planet, it's a huge undertaking and one we won't take lightly. So we're listening, but we are also watching and seeing what people and players are doing. But to answer your question pertinently, is it working as intended at the moment? No, because there's a multitude of things you are seeing that are incorrect.
Again, we can put that debate to rest now. Planets are officially broken. How long they take to get fixed, however, is the real question here. Now, there was a lot more on the live stream and Lave Radio interview. However, these, for me at least, were the key parts. Links to the official live stream as well as the interview are available in the video description. They are both well worth a watch, so be sure to check them out. Bottom line then, what does all of this mean? Well, for me, it shows one thing very, very clearly. Frontier have keenly felt the backlash from the community. Frontier now acknowledge and accept that keeping a player base for a live service game in the dark is just not acceptable. And just something that's a personal note here, Elite Dangerous is a service, it's a live service, and as with all services, if the service isn't up to scratch, then the users of that service are quite within their rights to point the problems out and make complaints as and where necessary. So Frontier has pledged to change this, to change their communications, and judging from what we saw yesterday, they have made some very clear initial steps towards this. In my opinion, this is a fantastic change and is much needed. A community manager who is allowed to be direct with the player base is much better than a community manager who is forced to use PR speak. Also, whilst not all the information given was happy news yesterday, it was direct answers. Some of the views from Frontier also didn't seem quite accurate, notably the successful Alpha comment. However, Frontier are very clearly stating it as they see it. So all in all, a very good move from the CM team, and one which I feel is very positive for the community. But the proof really is going to be in the pudding. Whether this level of communication continues, we will have to see. Secondly, will this actually make a change to the game itself? Personally, I will admit I have my doubts. I think the community managers have done a great job here, but the game's development is a different subject managed by different people. Will Odyssey improve over the coming months? Well, I'm absolutely sure it will. The bigger question though is whether it will improve in a way that pleases people. For that, we're going to have to wait and see. As Arthur said at the beginning of this video, Frontier now need to earn back all of the community's trust. They made a good start, now let's see what happens. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys and girls next time.